Hello there. So I want to go over my build. This is actual more of a guide. Last video, I wanted to include the guide in. I had some issues with power at home. I couldn't get the footage. I had to use old footage, and I was able to get one boss kill after the patch. But then that's when the power issues happened. I had no power in my house to, power a coffee machine or anything like that. So I had to do all of the editing on my laptop, which is fine. But people really want to know what the gem links. I'm sorry I couldn't get that out properly. This should resolve those issues. So I'm gonna start with the gem, move on to the tree, and then I'll get onto the gear. So the gems that are most important is a cast and shock with lightning conduit. So cast and shock reserves 60 spirit. You can get this during the campaign. I think you have 100. You'll have 100 at the end of the campaign. And then lightning conduit, you should find also around the time you should have around cast and shock. You should have it before then or after then. Very close timing. But should you go lightning conduit whilst leveling? I don't know, haven't tried it myself. It could be good if you build your tree right early. I'll get onto the tree later. On top of that, I have Archmage, which gives me lots of damage. It reserves 100 spirit, so you're going to need to find 60 spirit elsewhere if you want to run both Cast and Shock and Archmage. I have a body armor which gives me 60 spirit. You can find other ways around that. That's for you to discover. So if I have, let me just close all this. If I have Cast and Shock on, I have around 9,000 at the max level damage from my Lightning Conduit. If you look at what Lightning Conduit does, 100% more damage with hits per 5% shock effect on the enemy. I'm able to reach 80% shock effect, which then I can double through Stormweaver's Ascendancy. That gives me 2 shocks, that's 160. And then I do 160 divided by 5, and then that gives me 32 times 100 more damage. 32 times 100 more damage is 3,200 more damage. That's why it's obliterating bosses, because I get the double shock. I then cast on shock where I'm having to wait for the cast time. The cast time is a total of 1 second additional to its cast speed. And then I do 9,000 damage times the 3,200 multiplier, which is, I don't even know how much really, if I include shock effects included and penetration included and all that. It's just a lot of damage things at one-shotting. I've seen a question where if you look at what the consume effect says, it says multiple effects on enemies can be consumed. Only one consumption benefit can occur at once, and only consumption effects from skills would take priority over those from other sources. So the bottom part, consumption effects from skills will take priority. That's just a simple wording thing that Path of Exile 1 had, where if you have consuming from, let's say, gear or consuming from the tree, wherever the source is that's consuming it, this skill gems will just take precedence over those effects. The skill gems will come first. That's just typical of Path of Exile. Multiple effects on enemies can be consumed. So start of it, multiple effects. So how I read that, multiple effects, 2 shocks. 2 shocks are multiple effects. It's the same effect, but it's multiple. But only one consumption benefit can occur. People think that as I'm consuming 2 shocks, I'm consuming twice. I don't read it that way. I read it, I'm consuming something once, it just happens to have multiple effects on it. The reason I think it says only one consumption benefit can occur at once is because something like Elemental Discharge, which also says consume, freeze, shock, and ignite. So if I were to take Lightning Conduit, socket it here, I'm not able to put in a second consumption benefit. That is why I believe specifically for Lightning Conduit or any consumption skill game, that's why I believe that when it says only one consumption benefit can occur at once, that does not mean it can only consume 1 shock. That means that you can only have a benefit of a consumption from 1 source, and that 1 source is going to be the shock effect. So that's why I think the double shock works. If it doesn't work, this build isn't ruined. I'm still deleting bosses, and then also means it's actually a good thing. It also means you can go other builds and stack shock effects as other builds. So if you want to go Invoker with the increased energy, that's great. You can go mark effect as Deadeye. You can put on the Voltic mark, which then increases shock effect as well. But anyway, that is the CoS and Shock setup. Spark's good. If you like Spark, go for Spark. I'm using Arc. I like Arc more. It's just a preference thing. I think it looks cooler. So, I know on the numbers side of things, lots of projectiles, lots of clear, lots of multiple hits. Spark is better, especially if you can build into it with Pierce from the tree. Um, but there's something to consider about Shock. Shock itself has a threshold. So if you read here, lightning damage from hits contributes to chance to shock enemies. The higher the lightning damage dealt, the higher chance to shock, basically. Arc has a higher damage. It hits very hard, so I should be shocking consistently. But then you can do Spark, because Spark hits a lot more often, so that chance to roll the shock is also more frequent. So it's just a preference thing. What is important though is the more chance to shock, and then shock magnitude. 75% increase magnitude is crazy good. Basically, nearly double the shock magnitude for just a gem slot. The less shock duration doesn't matter too much because we're killing things quickly, and then we're also applying shocks quickly. Skill costs doesn't really matter. If you have mana issues, then do get it. Penetration is important. I don't have pen on my tree, and the reason penetration is important because if anything has lightning resistance, you're not doing damage to it. You're not doing damage to it. You're not shocking it. You're not killing it. So penetration is important. You can solve it kind of if you have exposure, but I have a free, socket here that I'm going to put pen on and save pen on the tree. You can just get pen on the tree and put something else here, like chain. Chain's very good. But yeah, that's Arc. You can go for Spark. I also have Orbs of Storm. Orbs of Storm just seems mandatory for any lightning build. Um, Even if you're using lightning rods, it seems very good on a bow build. But Orbs of Storm with limit 2, so I put 2 Orbs of Storm down. And this also puts exposure on for me. But the reason I like Orbs of Storm for single target is that it hits enemies basically twice as much as you're hitting with your arc, which means you're more likely to apply the shock, and then that means you're more likely to set the lightning conduit out. So that's the synergy there. We want to get lots of hit frequently that are doing high damage, and then applying shock to get off CoS and Shock. The other gems for CoS and Shock are just energy, energy, and I have an inevitable crit. I don't know if that works. It's really hard to know what actually works as the socketing thing. I think Spell Echo should work for this, but Spell Echo will not work for this. So I just put this on it. I would put CoS and I would put Spell Echo instead, but crit seems cool, assuming it works. Mana Tempest is just extra damage, very good. Sigil Power on my secondary with Blink. I also use Lightning Warp. Lightning Warp's a really good finisher. I did have it with Curl to regain life and mana, but I've just respec'd a little bit, so my dex is low. I'll solve it later, but Lightning Warp's very good. It's also fun with Unleash, which then hits multiple times if there's someone available or nearby to Curl. More damage, great AoE. But that is basically the setup for damage. You can use Ball Lightning as well, just that Ball Lightning is a low damaging spell. It's all personal preference. I think how you apply the shock is what do you think's better. I like Arc. You may like Spark. You may like Ball Lightning. Do as you please. You may even go as a bow build. Anyway, so that is the gems. Let's go to the tree. I have Strike Twice, just very good for the build, assuming that it does work properly, or how I think it works. And then Arcane Surge, because I'm going mana. This is what my tree looks like. What's important are the magnitude nodes and the jewels. I have a jewel here, jewel here, jewel here. I have a jewel here and a jewel here. I can also get one here, one there, and also I want to get one here maybe when I get this and then this. So these are both magnitude nodes. You can also anoint this here to give you more regen and shock. Something to consider. But this is also very cool. More magnitude. Energy retention. So the tree is basically get mana, get mana, energy shield, get more mana, get int, get arcane surge, get lightning nodes here. Oh, one thing to consider: chance to consume on shock. Oh, sorry, chance to reapply shock when it's consumed. I don't know if that means it's then shocking again once it consumes it, so it means more frequency of my shock being applied. If it doesn't, then I still do more damage with my arc, which then means I'm going to apply my shock down anyway. But here you have 10% chance, and you go up to 20% chance with extra quality to consume more, to reapply the shock. If that works how I think it does, then I have my energy retention, so I can save up to 50%. I'm refunding half. I have a 25% chance here, 35% chance here, so I have 6% chance to refund my cast on shock. And then it has a at max 45% chance to reapply the shock, which then hopefully builds more energy. But yeah, getting these energy nodes are very useful. 50% increased energy, more energy means more frequency. If you go Spark, you can get these push speed nodes here and skill effect duration. So it's just like, it's a no-brainer. If you like Spark, you can just do this straight away. You go in here anyway. I'm going to go CI later in the game, so that's also on the way. But yeah, that's how I would build a tree around it. You don't have to copy my exact layout. Just understand where are the magnifier nodes or the magnitude nodes. This is more damage side. The magnitude nodes. There's one here, one there, one there, one there, and one there, and you can anoint the one down here. And this is all magnitude on the way as well. So that's very good to get early if you plan to do this early. If you are building into this tree from a new fresh account, whether you should do that or not because you're worried about a nerf coming, that's down to you. I can't answer that. But if you do build this, how I would normally start a lightning damage character is start getting spell damage early, go this way and then come this way later. Respec, remove that. So go up here, grab that, grab this. You can get castle speed. If you have energy shield, grab that next. Then come up here and then grab all of this here. Sorry. Come up to here. Then you can go down here, grab this node here, which gives me more damage. Come here, grab the shocked and the ignite nodes, because you're going to be using flame wall and spark. This basically gives you 60% more damage. Very useful. And then I come down here. I can get this later. It's on the way. But come down here, get 5% more damage. Increase skill speed. Increase energy shield, max shield, and evasion. Increase movement speed. Then I come up this way, grab some penetration. Then I go here, grab some more attack speed. Then I go up here. I don't get this later. I don't get this yet. But then I grab the mana nodes, come up this way, grab some more shock things or lightning things, come all the way this way, then grab the arcane surge and grab this area here. And that's a good basis for just league starting for anything to do with lightning. Then you can then think about getting the Mind of Matter, then convert the Eldritch Battery. Then you can start unpathing out of this, then coming down here. So that's just kind of how I would league start it. Go this way, up, then go to the left side at the start, then come up to the right side, because it just seems a very efficient way to travel. That's the skill tree. The nodes are good. So the jewels are very good. You get 20% increased magnitude on a jewel. That's the highest it can roll. I think you can probably corrupt it to higher, but you can also risk rolling into something else. There's lots of jewels locations, so fit as many as you can for more damage. But you can also get energy application or increased energy on the jewel, and also increased shock chance, and also increased energy shield. So it's a lot of jewels, not just give you shock. If you get a really good jewel, then you get other benefits. Let's go on to the gear. +4 lightning spell. It's just very good. +4 to lightning spells, and then also +2 to all spells. That's give me boost to my Mana Tempest, my Archmage, my Arc, and my Lightning Conduit, as well as my Castle Shock. This is why I'm getting such high damage as well. I'll replace this for a block shield. I do feel squishy when I get ganked by a bunch of mobs, which is very annoying. Happens and I die, and then I wish I had block. This is the chest with 60 spirit. I want to replace this for just energy shield spirit, and I'm going to find spirit elsewhere. I could do it with rings, I could do it with an amulet, but it's very good, very expensive. I could do it with amulet, I could do it with shield, or I could do it with a helmet. I have this belt for just more mana recoup. But yeah, the gear is just simple. The gear is directly the same as any energy shield mana stacking character. That's why if this gets nerfed, I can just be a spark boy. It's, to me, do you want to roll into this? I I think the benefits are high, as in you're going to do lots of damage for bossing and you can get your ascensions really quickly that way. And the risk of it being nerfing is just quite an easy gold cost solution. All you then do is care less about magnitude and get more mana, energy shield, and focus on spark. And then you'll grab these areas here, and then you'll lose all this stuff here. And then you just sell a good spirit chest, So the risks are low if the nerf does occur. Respecking is not that expensive for how much you have to do. You're talking about removing these 2 here, these 4 here, and these 3 here, and then selling the jewels. Maybe you can keep the jewels. So yeah, that's the build. Thank you very much. Bye bye.